Welcome to the end of the world, survivors. You're tuned into the last voice on the airwaves, Harper, or as I've come to call myself, DJ Clueless, broadcasting from a radio station that still hums with life. I'm no longer alone, but winter is hard and the undead still roam outside. This is where we fight back. I'll be your guide through the madness, sharing survival tips, locations of safe havens, and the occasional existential crisis. The world's gone dark, and the dead outnumber the living, but there are some of us ready to fight back and to rebuild some of what we've lost. The only real question is, what's next? Stay tuned to Zombie Apocalypse Survivor Radio. Stick around if you're still alive. And that song was Don't Fear the Reaper by Blue Oyster Cult. Welcome to Zombie Apocalypse Survivor Radio. This is DJ Clueless, aka Harper, and I am here to continue the tale of the Siege of the Plant. But right off the bat, what we need to talk about are some of the protocols that are in place. Malcolm was prepared for a siege. He was probably more prepared than any other settlement I have ever seen. And so while the Z terror was taking root in all of us, the first 12, 16 hours, we didn't really panic. We lost a couple of people to, I guess, the siren song of zombies, but we didn't lose their lives. We just had to, put them in a holding cell area, which was more medical than, prison-y, but that's what we had to do. So one of the things that we need to explain about the Z terror is there are different levels of it. The very first level is just fear. It's just fear. You see one or two zombies, it strikes fear in your heart, and you're in trouble. The Z terror doesn't happen until you get 5 or more zombies. More than 5, and the Z terror freezes you. It doesn't matter if you fight, flight, freeze, fawn. It doesn't matter what your set instinct is. You are going to freeze. I have met 1 or 2 people who did not have the Z terror freeze them, but usually they had something extra going on. I apparently have the power of forcing truth upon people, and I still get the Z terror. But I've seen a couple people who are faster, stronger, and have more endurance. There were a few of Malcolm's people who never came down off the wall and didn't need to. They just had the endurance to be there. Their fingers didn't get tired shooting. They just were able to stay there. And the Z terror did not affect them. They did not freeze. They don't have that freeze instinct. And thank God Malcolm has some people like that, because those people usually save the rest of us who are frozen in fear. 5 seconds of being frozen and the zombies can get you. That's how it is. That's how it's going to be. But the Z terror has different levels. And what we dealt with the rest of the time was you have fear, you have terror, then despair sits in. And it sets in so hard and so quickly that you don't even realize it. But you're trying to shoot zombies and you can't. You just can't, because they're going to win. They're going to win. What's the point of even trying? They're going to win. Just stop. Just let them win. There's no point in fighting. Just give in already. Now, I have a little bit of oppositional defiance. So for me, when the despair would tell me that, I would have an immediate FU reaction to that, and I would fight harder. But there were quite a few people who were susceptible enough that they had to be contained. And what is so weird is once they were contained, they didn't fight. they became almost like mannequins, empty, nothing going on. You know, not drooling on yourself, not looking like a human who is shut down, but looking like a puppet waiting to be brought to life by the person who has the marionette strings. It's wild. And a lot of the people who this happened to, they explain having the despair and having the thoughts of, wouldn't it be easier if we just let the zombies win, if we just were on the side of the zombies, and then nothing but blackness took over. That's all they had was blackness. So the entire time that they're sitting in this holding cell, unable to help us because they'll go running out to the zombies, we even had one man trying to unlock the gate, which would have allowed the zombies to pour in. Uh, he got bitten in the process, and he was put down pretty immediately. But it scared everyone. And we're already dealing with the Z terror, which is constant, and it feels like it's inside your head. But for that to happen on top of it was just, it was a pretty big blow on morale. Because it's one thing to fight the zombies. It is one thing to be battling them all day, all night, Miss Marianne. It is another to have to watch the person next to you and make sure that they're not on the zombie side. And having that be a possibility wasn't something anybody took into account. Not Malcolm, who has almost an uncanny ability to plan for the future. Not me, who I've you guys know I've been in many zombie fights. I've done the let's shoot zombies all night long thing before. And all of us had, this wasn't the first siege of Malcolm's, probably won't be the last, but this one was by far the most terrifying because in the others, people weren't being drawn out. People weren't being called to join the zombies the way sirens call sailors to join the sea. It was not something that has ever happened before. And so it was completely unnerving. And so during the day, morale is slipping, exhaustion is setting in, worry about ammo. And Malcolm kept saying, don't worry about it, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. And when he stopped saying, don't worry about it, we all started worrying about it. Now, luckily, Jim is launching bombs just as fast as he can, which isn't terribly fast. Maybe one bomb every 15 minutes, which, you know, he takes out so many with him that it was definitely worth the effort. But I wish we had 3 gyms and we had a bomb every 5 minutes. We probably would have done a lot better. But, there are a lot of areas you can't bomb because you're just bombing yourself. The bombs had to be pretty far out. And so the fact that the bombs still had effect was both moralizing and demoralizing. Because, God, there's still zombies so far away, we can't see anything else. We've been shooting for like a full day at this point, and there's still just this ocean of zombies coming at us and coming at us and coming at us. And so the despair was real. And once you allow the despair to take root in your heart, you can hear the zombies wanting you to join them, telling you how great it is to not worry, to not feel anything, to be numb, to be blackness, to be the void. And, more people succumb to that than I would have thought. If you've survived this long, if you've made it this far, um, you either have a lot of luck or an ability to survive, right? And, when you have an ability to survive, part of that is fighting the despair. Every single one of us has lost our entire world. Every single one of us lost most of the people we cared about, our families, our significant others, our children, our everything, you know? So it was already despair licks at us every single day. every single day, the flames of despair try to burn us alive. And that's part of why I keep telling everyone to survive, 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 because I know it's not easy. The despair gets me. Um, because everything's just gone. It's just gone, like it never was. All of the institutions that we took for granted, all of the places of safety that we always thought would be there, all of these sanctuaries that were, home, hearth, family, they're all gone. And that despair is real and it is every day and it is consistent forever. And so when you're fighting an ocean of zombies, that despair does kick in. That despair does creep in. And once you allow the despair to take hold, it's harder to shoot. It's harder to care. It's why bother when everything is so hopeless? What is the point of fighting? Because we're not going to win. What is the point? What is the point? What is the point? And so you could tell when the people next to you were giving in to the despair. The shots would come less. Some would start openly weeping. And, I had to do a lot of cheering people up. Eventually, what Malcolm did is he put on music. They have a speaker system. And, we would never have done that if we weren't already under such a strong attack, wave after wave of zombies. We'd lost one perimeter fence. The second one was going. So, the wave after wave that was crashing on us was taking its toll, and we were losing. 100% we were losing. So the despair taking hold on everybody made sense, but it wasn't helpful. It wasn't something that would be good. I actually smacked one woman. She started gibbering insanely about how we were all going to die, that we were all going to get hooks in our heads and be marionettes. And I have no idea what a hook in the head even means. Like, what? She said that he will kill us all. He is coming to kill us all. And then she just started screaming. And I tried the gentle approach. I tried calming her down, but I'm not going to take time to be too gentle with somebody because, again, ocean of zombies right here that we need to be shooting. And so I smacked her. And when that didn't work, I smacked her again. And I'm not a hitter. I don't hit people, but her face was red. Her face was red. I definitely did some damage. And then I shook her and she stopped screaming and she looked at me and her eyes were wild. Just absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. And I said to her, "We are still here. We are still alive. We are still fighting. Nothing is hopeless until we are all dead. We are still alive. You are still alive. Pick up your gun. Start shooting. Don't stop." And I'm surprised, guys. She actually listened to me. She actually listened to me. And she said later that the truth of what I was saying penetrated her panic, her fear, and the cacophony of the zombies in her head telling her to give up. And I'm very, very glad my words had that ring of truth to it, and that spoke to her enough to pull her back from the abyss, because we couldn't lose her. We can't lose anybody else. We need everybody working as hard as they can, because again, if we keep fighting and keep fighting and keep fighting, who knows? Maybe we will empty this ocean with a teaspoon. Just enough time, enough ammo. Malcolm was looking pretty ragged. I don't think he had slept. We joked a little bit that he may have put the music on to improve morale, and to drown out the sounds of the zombies, because the sounds of the zombies, the moaning, the shuffling, and in some cases just the almost barbaric grunting. it gets inside your head. It's almost like their sound lives inside your skull and you can't escape from it. And the music drowned out the noise of the zombies, both outside and inside our skulls, to the extent that we were able to concentrate on the music, listen to the music playing, and shoot the hell out of all of the zombies, which was great and kind of genius on Malcolm's part. When he put on the music, my first thought was, are you crazy? That's going to draw zombies. And then I looked at him, started laughing. I'm like, yeah, too late for that now. Might as well have music. And the music did bring kind of a second or third or fourth wind for most of us to be able to get back onto what we were doing. But much like when I was on the roof killing zombies, I had to shoot left-handed for a while. I improvised some things to pull the trigger because my fingers were done. My fingers were done. And I even have one of those squeezy balls that I use to strengthen my finger strength ever since that time on the roof where my fingers got tired. And I guess it's a good thing I'd been practicing with that, because otherwise I would have been much more useless much more quickly. But we stood and we held the line and we kept going. The pikers had fallen back a while ago to the second perimeter fence and were doing what they could there. Anytime there was a cluster of zombies that looked like they would break through, that's where they concentrated their efforts on. That's where, we concentrated our fire upon. But eventually the second fence fell too. And that's when the despair became really hard to fight, because we only had one perimeter fence left. We still had some barricades. We still had some of those, basically, I think it's old-timey warfare. I'm not a war girl, so I don't know, but they had a bunch of these, like, not sticks, but sharpened wood pointing outwards in various places, so that if zombies pushed forward, they're just pushing themselves onto wood skewers and trapping themselves. But those were full. Quite a few of them were full of zombies, some alive, some dead. And so when the second perimeter fence fell, that's when a lot of the despair really set in, and that was when I had to smack the chick and get her back to what she was doing. Um, at that point, we were all just very, very tired. And there wasn't going to be any help coming, because at this point, rather than go with the normal shift work that we did when we started, Malcolm's like, this is an all hands on deck. Anybody that is able to fight needs to be fighting, and we can eat later. Was pretty much his view of it. We still had people running ammo. We still had people running water and occasionally some food. But, when I say some people, I think there were 4 people who were just running ammo all day long and bringing food all day long. And those were people who didn't know how to shoot, or at least not well enough that Malcolm wouldn't worry about the pikers getting hit too, because we can't afford to lose anybody. We don't have enough people. Jim kept setting off explosives, but it did not bring the morale boost that it used to. Basically, we were losing, and we knew that we were losing, and we weren't really sure how to deal with the fact that we were losing, other than keep fighting, keep fighting. And a couple people joked, oh, we've had worse odds than these. And we have? How? Well, we survived the original zombie apocalypse. Nobody else did. We got luck on our side. And I just about died laughing, because I don't think anybody living through this thinks they're lucky. Like, I will say, oh, I lucked out and survived. But sometimes I wonder if we were lucky to survive, or if the people who went in the first couple waves were lucky to not have to watch the collapse of civilization. I guess it depends on how you look at luck and how you look at good news and bad news. Everything's a matter of perspective, I guess. But I laughed very, very hard because I don't think anybody there felt like they were particularly lucky. But I think that was the intention. And laughter breaks through despair, even if it's gallows humor. And we were definitely on the gallows humor side of things. Um, but at a certain point, I notice that Jim is no longer lobbing bombs. He has picked up a rifle. He is shooting with the rest of us. And I can see an end to the zombies. You know, when I look out, I can see that the zombies, the zombie ocean has been depleted. Um, I don't even want to think about what cleanup's going to be. I'm very, very happy that in a day or two I will be heading back to the plant, but we still have hundreds, maybe thousands of zombies to take care of. But knowing that Jim picked up a rifle and was shooting instead of throwing bombs helped everybody. So we went from the bombs really boosting morale to the bombs tanking morale to, hey, no bombs means morale is up because it means there is a stop to this endless, endless stream of zombies, ocean of zombies. But anyway, that didn't matter too much because we had to keep shooting, and we did. And we eventually got to the point where there were only a few zombies left, and we were able to take a break in shooting, and we started talking about cleanup. And Jim came over to where me, Malcolm, and a few other people were talking about cleanup, and he was just like, this happens everywhere I go. This is so surreal. I can't believe there are this many zombies no matter where I go. And I just kind of looked at him, and I don't know if I was tired or grumpy or just on my last nerve, but I looked at him and I said, "Are you stupid?" He said, "What?" And I was like, "This happens everywhere you go. It doesn't happen everywhere I go. Does it happen everywhere you go, Malcolm?" Malcolm said no. I asked the other people, "Does it happen everywhere you go?" They said no. And I said, "It happens everywhere you go, Jim. You didn't listen to me when I told you about the group of pikers who said, at a certain point, if you kill enough zombies, they come for you. This is happening everywhere you go because the zombies are coming for you." And this SOB laughed at me. He started laughing. The thing is, nobody else laughed. And Malcolm looked at him and he said, "So 3 points don't make a straight line, do you, boy?" And I was just like, oh, wow. Malcolm called him boy. Wow. And Jim, rather than be insulted, actually listened to Malcolm. So I gotta tell you guys, even in the zombie apocalypse, men will listen to other men over a woman. Isn't that a fun thing? And maybe it was just having two people tell him to, give him the benefit of the doubt that he isn't a misogynist. But I'm still very irritated with Jim because of just the absolute willful cluelessness of that. But one person said, "So you mean to tell me if we had just given the zombies this guy, it would have been fine?" And I was just like, why would we give the zombies anything they want? I don't care who it is. They don't get to have a person just because they say so, just because they show up and screw everything up. No. However, if you are somebody who attracts zombies, you need to know about it because you're going to have different coping skills and coping things than the rest of us because not everyone is going to deal with this well. And, I basically told him, you need to go find some sort of place that looks like Endor or the Swiss Family Robinson, where you're just up in trees the whole time, or something akin to that, because this is going to be a problem wherever you go. And we started to talk a little bit about the different things Jim could do in the future where he wouldn't necessarily have to worry about a zombie horde. And the alarms went off again. And I would love to tell you that we all sprang into action, but instead our shoulders slumped. We were tired, and I could have cried because we were done. We got to the end of the zombies. How are the alarms going off? We were inside maybe 10 minutes. How in 10 minutes has it gotten this much worse? What in the world? Oh my God. So anyway, I am freaking out about this, but grabbing stuff and going back out, glad that I at least had a few minutes to eat some food, drink some water, and ask Jim if he was stupid, because clearly he is. Um, okay, that's probably not very generous of me. He's probably not stupid. He's probably just, unaware of the fact that these zombies are not a viral infection. I don't have anything to back this up with other than their behavior. They behave like supernatural creatures. They behave in a spooky way. Sometimes they behave like a school of fish or a flight of starlings. They seem to have one mind sometimes. And I don't know if it's a hive mind. I don't know if they're puppets. I don't know what exactly the deal is. I just know that it's very hard to look at them and not feel malevolent energy coming off of them in waves, because it does. It absolutely does. And when you have zombies following you everywhere you go, how can you not feel that malevolence? But Jim is a very logic-based person. He's a very technical-based person, and thinking something is supernatural is just not in his worldview. I think it might be now. Since then, Jim has seen a few things, we all have, that would support there's something supernatural going on for all of us, right? But I've got to say, in that moment, he looked just pathetically clueless. And I would have felt bad for him if I weren't so pissed off at him. I didn't want to be mad at him. I didn't want to have all of this anger at him, but it had been a long couple of days. And when the alarms went off again, it was probably one of the worst moments of my entire life, as far as despair and hopelessness and just sheer exhaustion. At a certain point, fighting back is exhausting. And we didn't have time to sleep. We didn't have enough personnel to eat. We started off strong, and the zombies ended up making us weak. And so when we got back outside, there was another just vast sea of zombies approaching. They hadn't reached us yet. The alarms went off in time for the people who were repairing the fence, because yes, even as exhausted as we were, that was the first thing we did, was try to repair the fence. And, we had to abandon that. And so we, we took up our posts and started shooting again. And this time, most of us were pretty convinced that we were going to die. However, we didn't, and I will tell you how next week. And until then, you need to survive, 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 so you get more of the story. This is DJ Clueless, signing off until next week. This is Harper signing off for now. Remember, the world is still turning, even if it feels like we're standing still. Survive, adapt, endure. As the dust settles, we are rising again. We are rebuilding from the ashes. Until then, keep moving, keep fighting, and whatever you do, survive.